it comes to institutions and knowledge is, you think about things like, for a long time, the New York Times has been the paper of record. That's kind of where
Mm-hmm.
you go to
Mm-hmm.
to look for journalism and to understand what is going on. If I'm looking for a historical event, it's a place to go and find out what was being said about it.
Yeah.
But we've gotten to a point where, as you were saying, institutions are so mistrusted that what is still, you know, and maybe it makes me a liberal, but what still is, in my opinion, solid journalism, and usually, most of the time, if it is
Mm-hmm.
in the journalism section, it's news and not opinion, is now looked at as being biased and quote unquote fake news because people, don't want to trust what is out there. And, they'll trust somebody's mom and pop website, whatever they put up, instead of
Right.
the people who have trained to learn how to find the information and put it out in a way that we can understand it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most insidious types of self-deception that somebody can find themselves having waded into on the internet is where you do find a mom and pop shop where they're saying exactly the thing that you had a hunch about.
Yep.
If you do have kind of some degree of distrust in the institutional, I don't want to use narrative because it's not like it's made up or something, but whatever,
Right.
whatever the official story is. And this is where you get into the conspiracy theory world. And that is just, there's such a dark thing there because you think that you've deceived yourself into thinking that you're pursuing the truth, where it's actually just this kind of self-oriented reflection that makes you feel smart or something like that, right?
Right.
And that's a big danger. I think people go down really, really bad paths sort of through that process. The thing that came to mind actually I thought of was you said having humility is good and important. I think it was Saint Bernard who was asked, I think it was Bernard of Clairvaux who was asked what are the three most important virtues, the three greatest virtues, and he replied, humilitas, humilitas, humilitas.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it's, because I mean, if you look at, and I got a hard out at 5, so I don't have time to get into a theological discourse really. But, when you think about it and you look at, sin from a biblical perspective and start to look and see, what is it that, and I think you can even look at it from a secular perspective and kind of come up with this same idea, but ultimately it's a worship of self that is what is driving so much of what we do that is sinful in the world, that is, bringing negative things into the world. It's pride. It is putting myself up and saying, well, I am God, and therefore everything revolves around me. And so what is going on and what happens to the people around me really doesn't matter because it's all about me anyway. And to me, that's, part of the reason that I'm a Christian, that I am a pastor, is that I see that Christian ethos fights against that better than anything else that I see in the world. And so it really, it comes down to, humble yourself. And I think that's true, whether we're quoting Paul or we're just looking at somebody who doesn't care what the scripture says and just wants to live a better life. Humble yourself. Put other people before yourself. That's and what it comes down to, and I've said this so many times that it's almost, I mean, it is cliche to a point, but if I'm putting other people before myself and all of them are putting other people before themselves, we're all going to meet our needs because everybody's going to be meeting one another's needs. And that's the, and I think that there is a sense where, and you and I talked about this, I think yesterday, there's a sense where I think that in the utopian ideal of the internet that was there in the earliest beginnings of it, there was that sense of that's what we're here to do. We're here to take care of one another and give everyone access to all the information because that is going to make the world a better place. But we forgot the fact that people are going to get on here and lie just as much as they're going to get on and share the truth with one another. And they're going to get on to try to build themselves up as much as they're going to get on to try to share with other people.
Yes. Yes. And you know, human beings on some deep level are good, but also just like incredibly
Oh yeah.
susceptible to
Yeah.
deception, self-deception. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that is to be human in many ways.
Yes.
So I of course, and I think you and I both are extremely hopeful. I think that there are both technological as well as cultural and educational paths to a better world in the 21st century, and we can learn from, I think, some of the mistakes that have been made, especially over the last 20 years. I want to bring it down to sort of a more personal lens.
Yeah.
You were a Virtuals customer.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure of serving your family through the fellowship program, and then also doing some guidance with you and your wonderful spouse. What have you learned from that process?
I think the biggest thing is, that this is another realm where building some kind of community is what is going to help work through these technological issues. And, so I look at, the reason that we came to you guys, we got some information from the schools about an opportunity. If you've got a kid that is having, some issues with, video games and screen time and these kind of things. And my middle child, my son, was having some issues with that. And we had been trying to work through it, and we had tried some different things and said, well, I'm willing to try anything that's out there. If this is a good opportunity, let's look into it. And so